All right, it looks like we are live. Hello, everybody, and thank you so much for joining us. We have a very exciting announcement that we're going to share in just a moment. But first, I, of course, need to introduce myself and our guests for today. My name is Leah Zahner. I'm going to be hosting this panel and kind of keeping things going. We have very exciting guests for you and talented instructors that I'm going to introduce to you briefly right now. And of course, I see you all in the chat box waving hello to each other, sharing where you're watching from. We love that. Keep that going. I'm going to start to open it up a little bit later after these introductions for you to start asking questions, if any come to mind throughout this exciting little chunk of time. It's a little preview for what's coming to you next week. So first, I'm going to introduce one by one your instructors that you will be getting to know today and next week as well. And I am going to start a quick hello to our sewing expert, crafter, designer, and Craftsy instructor, Mr. Domestic. Say hi and wave to all of your fans.
Hi, everybody. Hi. Somehow I made it in the group of these talented people. They just don't know. So welcome to the party.
Oh, we're so excited to get started. Thank you for joining us today. And we're going to move on to our second expert. She's a knitting expert, a managing editor of The Knitting Circle. Please welcome Jen Lucas. Jen, hi.
Hey everyone, I'm so happy to be here. I'm really excited to show you all the knitting things.
And we are excited to have Jen here. I believe you said this was your first live event that you're doing here like this?
Yes, it is. My first one.
All right, so we're going to have so much fun. I can already tell. We have one more instructor to introduce you to, and that is our sewing expert and National Sewing Circle instructor, Emily Steffen. Hi, Emily.
Hello, hello, hello. This is quite wonderful. I'm excited to bring Christmas fun to everybody.
Oh my goodness, it's the holiday season. That's exactly what we're here for, to bring some cheer and some crafts to everybody watching. So once again, my name is Leah Zahner. I will be moderating your questions and feeding them through as the event goes on. But before we get into all of the previews of what's coming up specifically, let's learn a little bit more about our instructors. So I'm going to go right back to Mr. Domestic. Mr. Domestic, tell us a little bit about you, what brought you here today, and maybe a little sneak preview of what to expect.
Hello, everyone. My name is Matthew. I'm also known as Mr. Domestic. I like to make fun stuff. I like fun colors. I'm all about positivity and inclusion. So if you're about that, come find me everywhere. I'm really excited to make this Quilt-as-You-Go stocking. And I'm gonna do it in 30 minutes. I promise. It's gonna be amazing. It's really cool. And it's got fuzz in it. And I made 2 of them. I need one more because I made one for I have a 7.5-year-old daughter. And then there's me. So I made these 2. And then I guess my husband needs one too. So I'll make one for him too. But I just like having fun. So.
All right, that's amazing. You've got to have one for everyone in the family. We'll get that going. All right. Tell us a little bit about yourself, Jen. What brings you here today?
Well, I'm Jen. I'm the managing editor of the Knitting Circle, and I'm here to bring you knitting. So I also will be making something that you can make for everyone in your family, and that is a little mini mitten. So you can turn it into an ornament. You can just make a bunch to have around the house, whatever you want. And I'm very excited about making these. They're very addictive. They're quick to make. So I'm very excited to show you how.
Oh, that's going to be so fun. All right, Emily, it's up to you next. Tell us a little bit about yourself and a little sneak preview of what's coming up.
I love it. I'm Emily, and I run or am a part of or do OEA Studios, and I make a lot of things, I doodle a lot of things, and I paint a lot of things. I'm all about color. So I'm going to make this really happy, colorful, these are Christmas bulbs. And let me just tell you, they're out of felt, and they're honestly, you can make these with your kids. You can make them, just lock yourself in your sewing room and make them. They're very simple, very fast. And they add loads of color to your mantle or to your Christmas tree. And they're out of felt, which means that they're the easiest thing to sew because there's no fussiness with it. It's a very easy substrate. So I'm excited to make them with you guys.
Yes. Oh, we are very excited for this. So this is all happening next week. And I guess it's time to really officially announce the 5 days of merry making. It's a mini series coming to you next week. Craftsy, the Knitting Circle, National Sewing Circle, and the National Quilters Circle are all teaming up to bring you a bundle of festive patterns and recipes. So that means every day next week, a different instructor is going to be streaming live, just like this, as they quilt, sew, knit, and decorate cookies, which is very much something I am a fan of. They will provide for you step-by-step demonstrations of fun holiday projects, and the first official day of the mini-series starts Monday, December 7th, and that will be at 2 p.m. Central Time. And Mr. Domestic, Jen, and Emily are here. They gave you a little mini sneak peek of some of the projects that they are bringing to the mini series, but I'm gonna have them go into a little bit greater detail as we get further through our session here today. But first, I wanna get to know our instructors a little bit more. So I'm going to go one by one and ask, what is your favorite thing to craft for the holidays? And what holiday is the one you craft the most for? So let's start with Emily here. Why don't you get us going?
So I love the holiday season, this Christmas holiday season. And one of the things that I always do with my kids is a simple pajama pants pattern. And I totally cheat. And I just take a pair of their pants from their drawer at home, lay it out on some fabric, cut around it. And it's something that actually my son last year, he's 7, totally got in on. And it's one of those things like, yep, the simplest, easiest little thing to sew because it's 2 pieces and about 5 seams. But I feel like it's one of those crafts that actually makes the holidays come to life for us because we wear them and we hang around all Christmas Eve or Christmas Day, whatever, in them and just lounge.
All right, so Christmas PJ pants sounds pretty fun. How about you, Jen? What is your favorite thing to craft, and what holiday do you kind of really craft the most for?
These days, I really actually craft the most for Halloween. In addition to knitting and crochet, I also love to cross stitch. So this year I was cross stitching Halloween decorations for my house basically all year long. But I do love to craft for the holiday season too. I'm knitting some hats for my nieces and nephews this year. So I've been currently busy with that.
All right, well, that sounds nice too. And we're gonna wrap this up with Mr. Domestic. Favorite holiday to craft for, and what is your favorite thing to craft for that holiday?
Yeah, I love making ornaments. I never really celebrated Christmas a lot until I had a kid, and then it's like all the joy I understood. I think I have like 12 or 13 like tutorials on my YouTube, but I get started like in August, and I make them out of like non-traditional fabrics just to like jazz up the color. So yeah, it's the winter holidays is what I love crafting for.
Awesome. I'm going to slide in our first question that is coming in from Christy. And I'm just going to let you all down the line. We'll start with Mr. Domestic, but Christy wants to know, what is the hottest craft item on trend right now?
The hottest craft item on trend. Not to like toot my own horn, but basically anything that I'm making, that's what the hottest craft trend is right now. So right now I'm making a seed stitch knit what's this called, scarf for my daughter. But really, I mean, there's not trends, color, vibrancy, sewing, crafting, all of them. There's not one. I can't choose. I'm not going to choose. They'll get mad at me, the other crafts. That's it.
I'm going to send it over to our color queen, Emily. What do you have to say is the hottest craft item on trend right now?
My kids and I are really into like any ice dyeing or tie dyeing or indigo dyeing is like magic to my son because it's where you put it in the dye and it turns from like green to blue and it keeps getting darker and darker and darker. We're really into dyeing, and we have napkins and t-shirts and pants and all the things that are tie-dyed and dyed in any shape or form or color. It's kind of great.
Awesome. All right, Jen, what are you calling the hottest trend at the moment?
Like Mr. Domestic, I don't know. It's hard to pick just one. I will say that on my social media, I have been seeing a lot of like crocheted granny squares and things that you can make out of like your leftover yarn, using up those little bits you have to make blankets or hats or anything like that. But especially I've been seeing, I feel like a lot of crocheted granny squares lately.
I love it. I love it. I love it. All right. We are going to continue on. I am going to keep an eye on the questions as they come in, and we'll get to another fun question in a bit. But let's get to a fun preview. So you got a little sneak peek when we had our introductions of all of our instructors. Now I'm going to ask them to go just a little bit deeper into the project that they are bringing to all of you next week and kind of give you an idea of what to expect, maybe anything you might want to have handy, and let us know how long the project is going to take, what you can use it for, anything that comes to mind for them. And I'm going to send it over to Jen first. So Jen, what are we doing next week with you? And share your details.
Okay, so we're going to be making the little mini mitten, and you just need 20 yards of fingering weight yarn. So it's perfect for those leftovers. You could even, make stripes if you only had 10 yards of a couple different colors. And so we're going to start at the cuff and we're going to knit the mitten, and then the thumb, we're actually going to just work flat back and forth since it's so tiny. And then I'll also show you how to add a little crochet loop on if you want to turn it into an ornament. And then you can add buttons, sequins, anything you want. I knit each one of my mittens in maybe like an hour. They really don't take very long to make at all. And they're so cute.
Oh, that's going to be really great. So that's coming at you next week from Jen. And Jen, you're from our Knitter Circle, correct?
Mhm. Yep, that's right.
So we do have a couple comments coming in. There's a few of you out there that are commenting that we don't know how to knit very well, but hopefully a simple project to get started. What would you say to somebody that's a little newer to knitting?
Like, what would be a good project to start with?
Well, how would they feel with this project next week? Is this a good one for a beginner?
I mean, actually, I think it is, because a lot of people always think that as a beginner, you should start with a scarf. And if you want to, that's great. But I also feel like you get bored after you've knit 1 foot and then you still have 4 more feet to knit. So this would be a great project. We are going to be knitting it in the round, but I'm going to show you how to do that. And it's really not that hard once you get started. So yeah, I would think if you're new to knitting, you should be able to do this, sure.
And I would also like to add, it's going to be like this. It's going to be live. It's going to be an event where you'll be experiencing it with your fellow knitters from their homes all around the country and maybe even the world. So it probably is going to be pretty fun to have that community feel if you're new to knitting. So I say go for it.
Yeah, just go for it.
All right, let's move on. And I'd like Emily to give us a little deeper preview into the project she's going to be bringing next week.
Yeah, so these are the little felt bulbs, and I love felt because you can work them in really small projects. You can make really easy, simple cuts, and the edges don't have to be completely finished, which I really love. I love quilting, but this is a simpler project, although Matthew might say, hey, for a minute there. But for me, it's more simple. It's easy for kids if you want to get kids involved. And my kids actually love to help pick colors. We make strands of these all the time. And we have them in our entryway. We have tons of them as little ornaments. You can individually string them for our Christmas tree. We have them hanging by our stockings. And the cool thing is that you can make them you can make 300 if you really want to. I mean, why the heck not? They would also be really cute as toppers on a gift under the tree or for somebody too, right? So you can embellish them if you want to. I love projects that the sky's the limit and you can make them, you can personalize them. So if you're not into all these crazy colors, you could do the traditional red and green or blue and white. They can be for Hanukkah, they can be for Kwanzaa, they can be kind of for anything. That's kind of just this festive season. So they take not too long to make, truthfully. The cutting probably takes the longest, and it's really easy as long as you have a sharp fabric scissors and some felt, and then I'm going to be using my sewing machine. So fast, simple, colorful project.
Yes. And I'm going to ask this to Emily, but really this applies to all of our projects. Do you know if there's going to be a materials list published before the tutorials start? Have you thought about those materials ahead of time?
Yes. So all you will need for the materials is as many colors of felt that you want. And then I chose white just for like the top bulb part. And I know that we will have the pattern for this as well as the materials list published as a PDF during the live and then before the live. And I assume that will be the same for everybody so that we can prep or get everything ready ahead of time.
Exactly. That would be great to have. So keep on paying attention to all of that content as it comes out so you can prepare. And then we have a third instructor that would love to tell us more about the project that he's bringing. So Mr. Domestic, let's get some more details from you about your next week's project.
If y'all are new to me, I'm on the extra scale. Like I'm a 10 out of 10 on that scale. You probably figured it out by the purple hair. But if you're new to quilting as you go, it's this technique where you can't see the stitches. And I love using fusible batting with this because it just makes it really easy to work with. Essentially, like I'll do strips, sew it, fold it over, and then put another strip, fold it over, and then cut it out in this shape. And then if y'all have this stuff, like it's so soft and fun, and it's like really, really messy if you're into that kind of thing. But this is going to be fun. And it's like, this is a keepsake, a lot easier to make than you would think. And then this is my fabric too. So if you have that, that's great, but you don't have to have it. Just bring your fabric.
Bring your fabric and bring your fun. It looks like that might be a requirement.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, we have a question that I'm going to send right to Jen. This is a really specific one, but a good one. Will it matter if someone is knitting left-handed?
Absolutely not. So I knit with the yarn in my right hand, but if you knit with the yarn in your left hand, it will work too. If you knit truly left-handed in that you knit completely the opposite way of what is convention, totally fine. If you know how to knit and purl, you can make the mitten. That's all you really need to know how to do.
And keeping on track with this same question we have from August, how foolproof is the quilted stocking? I've never quilted before, so let's move it on over and get that covered.
I'm a fool. And I can make it. But honestly, that's the joy of doing a live event, is that we can go back and show you something again since it's interactive. So this would be the perfect opportunity if you happen to be a fool like me to get it good. And then all of us are really accessible. If you had a question after the fact, we would for sure like answer it and help you get through the project. So yeah, you can do it. If I can do it, you can do it.
Yes. And I would also like to add, I'm going to be for all of these doing the same function I am right now. So if you have a question that just is throwing you for a loop as you're working through, I'm going to be available to catch their attention and ask your question. I guarantee if you have the question, probably somebody else out there does as well. So I'm always going to be here and available to facilitate those questions as we're working live. That's one of the best things about it being a live event. I'm seeing some people in the comments that have had some trouble at the beginning, kind of catching on to the event. And I want to let everybody know also going to be available for replay. So if you missed any section of this at all and you want to check it out later, you'll be able to go back to this video and see the entire thing from the beginning. So don't worry about that. If you're missing any of these, you can go back and watch later. I'm going to pull another question here coming up. Let's see here. Oh, let's do this one. Cheryl asks, how did you all find your unique style? I've tried all sorts of crafts, but want to hone in on mine. So let's go right down the line. Emily first, how did you find your style?
So I feel like that's a big question. And I feel like the cool thing about making and crafting is you can kind of just try the things. You don't have to purchase $9 million of one sort of substrate or product or idea or buy into this huge thing, right? Like you can start with one project. If you're interested in quilting, take Matthew's class next week. Or if you want to try knitting, I feel like these are the ways that you can kind of try it out. And there's no shame in trying something and saying, boop, I hate it. Or, oop, that was terrible. Or, oop, let's try again, because we've totally all been there. And I feel like just trying things and seeing what you genuinely love or fall in love with is going to get you on the right track for it.
Awesome. How about you, Jen? What would you say? How would you search for a style of your own?
Yeah, it just really playing off what Emily said. It's like, you know, you just need to kind of try all the things. And I know for a lot of us, you know, when we were starting out, we were just going, and I still do, but go to the big box craft stores and get your supplies. You do not have to spend a lot of money, and just over time, figure out what you like. When I first started knitting, I didn't think I was going to like ultimately like become my job and love it so much. It was just like, oh, I think I'll try this. So yeah, it's kind of just, taking the time to sort of try all the different crafts and then just see which one just you end up loving, and then you can explore it from there.
Awesome. That's a great advice. I love that. All right, Mr. Domestic, bring us home. I
For
think you might be
me,
the first
yeah,
guy.
for me, it happened with my kid. Like all of this was built whenever Helena was born. She inspired me to get into it. And she and I would go to the fabric store when she was a baby. She would grab stuff, even if I thought it was like wretched, it would be my job to like bring it home and make something cute. And so from trusting her intuition as a kid, it allowed me to tap into that thing that a lot of us put away whenever we grow up. And so now my process is purely intuitive. And when I have a question or if I'm stalled, I go ask her and she's always right. So really just tap into that thing we all have. Trust your gut. Your intuition will never turn you the wrong way. And that's what I do, and how I found my style is just through that process. And it's pretty neat.
Yeah, just listening to kind of what you're drawn to. Notice what you want to pick up, what you want to touch, what you want to work with. That would
Yep.
help wait a bit. A pretty specific question here for a knitter. So I'm going to bring this one to Jen. When I'm knitting, I get my fingers all twisted trying to hold on. This one comes from Diane. So do you have any tips for Diane, just in general, for twisted fingers while knitting?
Yeah, I mean, I think just the biggest piece of advice I can give is that everyone knits a little bit different. I've encountered so many knitters, over the years, and everyone knits a little bit different. And so you just really need to try to just relax and just find what works for you. And sometimes it is just sort of trying a few different styles. If you hold the yarn in your right hand, you could try holding it in your left, just trying a few different ways. If you have friends that knit, or if you're on Zoom with them, maybe right now, ask them how they're knitting, let you, just kind of like look and see how other people are knitting. And then you'll eventually figure out sort of how it feels comfortable for you to hold your needles.
All right, trial and error, maybe.
Yeah, it's really just trial and error, as are most crafts.
All right, I have a question coming in that I'm going to take because I'm sure a lot of you might be thinking the same thing. I'm going to try your name. I think it's Danica or maybe Danica. I'm not sure. One or the other asks a very important question. If we miss the live event for the individual craft next week, will we be able to play it later? And the answer is yes. So these are going to live on the Craftsy site and then whatever social that you are watching it on. So if you're watching it on a social media account or something like that, you can watch this back. So if you miss one of the events next week, just like this one, you can come back to it another time. Maybe you just want to make the project again and kind of relive it. So even if you don't miss it, you'll have that replay available to you after the fact. All right, we've got a nice hefty set of comments coming into the chat box. So while I sort through for another question, I'm going to feed a little get to know you better to all of our panelists. And I'm going to ask each one of you to talk about what is the best handmade gift that you've ever received. So I'm going to send this to Mr. Domestic first. Gift that you've received.
Honestly, and I'm very sensitive too. I don't want to cry with this, but it's the most beautiful, because I'm also a fabric designer, so it's the most beautiful quilt that I've ever seen made with my fabric. I have blog parties where I invite makers. I have a maker group and they make stuff, and she made something with, her name's Kenzie Hogan. She made this gorgeous, exquisite quilt. And I didn't realize that after she was done showing it, she was going to gift it to me. And so the surprise came in the mail. I didn't even tell, because I didn't want to be like, oh, I love it so much, give it to me. Like, I didn't want to do that. But when I got it, I probably cried. And every time I see it, it's like that #1 heirloom that, like, if there were a fire, I would run and go get that because it means that much to me. And that's the power of crafting and making stuff, is that your heart and all of the joy when you make it is trapped in that project. And I for sure felt it from Kenzie whenever I received it. And every time I like snuggle in it, it's like a big hug from her. So that, hands down, no question.
Oh, that's so heartfelt.
Yeah.
Right, I'm loving these answers already. Jen, what about you? What is your favorite gift that you've received from somebody that's handmade?
I've received so many different handmade things over the years, but I think my favorite has to be, I had a friend who, for my wedding, she had knit us a blanket, and it was using just this beautiful stitch pattern. It was like the exact kind of stitch patterns that I love to use when I'm, designing my own shawls and things. And so I think that has to be my favorite. I still just adore that blanket to this day.
All right, Emily, bring this one home. What is your favorite gift that you've received?
So my husband has this family farm in rural Wisconsin, middle of nowhere, Wisconsin, where your cell phone barely works and it's just this awesome place, right? And they had to sell it a couple of years ago. And my friend Devin took a photograph and she painted this incredible, it's not even like the most realistic painting, but it's like the perfect remembrance of this property and the buildings and everything that it meant to our family. And it's huge and it's amazing and it's colorful and we love it. And I feel like it's one of those things similar, I guess, to what Matthew said about the quilt, where you look at it and you feel it. You feel the moment, you smell the farm, you feel it. It's just like, it's there. And it's one of my most favorite things in the world. If there was a fire in our house, I'd probably go grab it. It's pretty great. It's pretty great.
Priorities, right? You have to know what to take out of the house with you. All right, we do have a few more questions coming in. One, I'm going to just say, I saw the question at the very end of this. You're going to get a very specific answer. A short answer, somebody is wondering, and I'm sure many of you are wondering, if the events next week are going to be at the same time every day. And the answer is almost. So almost all of them are going to be at 2 p.m. Central Time. There is one event that's going to be pushed to 3 p.m. Central, but I'm going to give you all of those details before we sign off for the finish, so you have them all available. And of course, you'll be able to find that information online as well. I'm going to take another quick peek over here for our next question. How do you find your time to get creative? And how do you decide where that creativity is going? What are you going to create next? So let's go right back to Emily for this one.
I doodle a lot, like in front of movies, in front of TV, in the car. And that's where I feel like I just get out what's in my head and all the ideas I have in my head. And I feel like inevitably when I'm doodling something, I have an idea and then I'm like, oh, we can make this into a plushie. Oh, I can make this into a painting. Oh, I can paint this on a wall. So I feel like it stems from my doodling and I kind of just do it all the time.
All right, Jen, how about you? What's your process? My process usually for the last few years has been, if I know, if I'm doing a particular project for work, I know somebody wants me to design a shawl, I honestly usually start there and then work backwards as to what that shawl is going to look like. But I also do like to sort of go with the flow because I do like to, create beyond just what I have to do for work. So I just kind of, when I feel like starting something, if an inspiration strikes, I just grab my yarn and start it. So it's like a little bit of both.
All right. Let's go, Mr. Domestic. How do you get that creativity flowing?
Yeah, I mean, thankfully my family knows how important it is to me, for my mind, and for my spirit to dedicate time every day. So it's part of my day. It's my refuel. And the main driver of projects for me is, do I know that skill? If I don't know it, or if there's something that I need to learn, then I'll gravitate to that because I just want to learn all the things by the time I'm 80. So that's one way to do it. And then I share it with everyone. And then it's for real, the internet. There's so much inspiration. And it's you see stuff and you're like, I want to do that. And it's really easy to find it once you get tapped into that online community, like this right here.
I'm going to shout out the online community right now. There's been some troubleshooting with the sound going on in the chat box, and I believe that somebody found the magic button and it's in Matthew's window. So if you look in the bottom of Matthew's window, there's a mute unmute. That's what it looks like is happening in the chat. So if you're having trouble with the sound, drop into the chat box. I'm pointing at it. Maybe you can read my lips, but check out all of that help that's happening in the community at the moment. I'm going to take this next question right back down the line, but we're going to start with Mr. Domestic, with Matthew. Tina has a question. She's a bit overwhelmed with all of the projects I've promised myself to make as gifts. How do you not get overwhelmed?
Don't do that. Honestly, for me, I'm all about the process. So one thing that keeps me from like getting overwhelmed or frustrated is that I'm a 95 percenter. I say it to anyone who will listen. I don't strive for 100% perfection on any of my projects. I strive for 95% perfection because I think that last 5%, that risks the chance of stealing the joy. And I don't want frustration trapped in anything that I make. So that's the main thing. And then just have fun with it. And if you can't do it, go buy it. Like, it's okay. Like, just have fun. That's the most important thing to me. So that's what I would say.
All right, Jen, how about you? How would you recommend getting that avoidance of feeling overwhelmed?
Yeah, I mean, I think we all feel it, especially this time of year. You have these plans, you want to make so many things, and then now you're like, uh-oh, it's December. Now what do I do? But yeah, again, hitting on what Mr. Domestic says, you don't have to do it all. You know, if you can set aside a little time every day and just say, hey, I'm going to work on this for an hour a day, you know, you'll be surprised if you are able to set aside that time, how much you can get done. But also, you know, like he said, if you don't get it done, you don't get it done. It's really okay. And yeah, I mean, I'm definitely have been that person that has given the baby blanket when they're like 2. So, you know, it's okay. They'll still love it.
Indeed, indeed. Emily, do you have anything to add as far as advice for this?
Well, I've 100% been the person that wraps up like an IOU for the handmade gift that's still in process. So I'm not the person to ask. But I mean, then it becomes like a Valentine's gift or a New Year's surprise. So I just like to keep the giving happening through the year.
Absolutely. So I guess take a little pressure off of your own shoulders. I think everybody appreciates a homemade gift, even if it comes a little after the event. So hopefully that helps, Tina. I've got a next question coming in from Laura, and Laura's asking for all of you, after your area of expertise, so the craft that you're sharing with us, what's your second favorite craft? So let's go to Jen first for this one.
For me right now, it's cross stitch. It's been something I've done for the last few years, but really in the last 2 years has become, I love to cross stitch so much. It's just, that's what I tend to do at night now a lot, is cross stitch those Halloween things.
All right, Emily, how about you?
I said before, a doodler and painting. I love actually having a physical pen in my hand or a paintbrush in my hand and getting it out from my head to my hand and like, you know, working that doodly. And I feel like I just work things out that way. And that's I've been painting all of our walls through quarantine. When you're stuck inside, you want your walls colorful and happy, because why not? When you're stuck inside, I mean, just get some paint.
You sure do. You need that happiness, right? All right, and how about you, Matthew? Tell us a little bit about what your second favorite craft is.
No, I will not do it. Don't listen. It's crochet. That's what I love. It's my second one. It's just fun. Like, and that was a craft that I started years ago. I tried and I couldn't do it. And then I came back to it and I figured it out. And now it's like, I'm obsessed. So it's like, if you can't get something right away, you never know. I plan on being on this journey of life for a long time. There's time for that. Just move on to something else, right?
You use that trial and error method. Find what you love. Ooh, okay, here's a good one. This is Lynetta. And she's saying, hi, well, hello and welcome. My daughter is 8, wants to learn to knit. So Jen, this is gonna be for you. What would be a good project to begin her on? Any tips on making it fun? I guess she's seen some beginner projects on circulars, but isn't that a little bit advanced? What do you have to say, Jen?
I actually don't think starting out on circular needles is that advanced. I actually think hats are a great first project because you are learning how to knit in the round. And like I said about the scarf, you'll be done with the hat a lot faster than a scarf. And I've known a lot of kids. I have friends whose kids were young, 8, 9 years old, and they've gotten very addicted to making the hats. You can find these at big box stores or online. You can actually find knitting looms to make hats, and you do them by hand. You can find like very advanced, knitting looms, but you can find these little handheld ones. And a lot of kids 8, 9 years old really like making the hats with the little looms as well. So that might be a good place to start.
Okay, that's a really great bit of advice. So I would like to let everybody know that's watching a couple things. We are getting close to our wrap up time, so I'm going to finish with one more question. But before we do that, and I will remind you of this again, this replay will be available. And if you had a question that didn't get answered in this session, this is our introduction session. We have all of the time next week as these projects are being done live for you to answer and ask a little bit more questions of yourselves in the community and of these fantastic instructors as they bring their projects live to you next week. So don't worry if your question didn't get asked today, you're gonna have plenty of time to get questions in next week during our events. So I'm going to send everybody off with one final question here. Ah, there it is. I found it. So, do you plan on making a specific handmade gift for any of your loved ones this year that's making you the most excited about? And we'll go right down the line. Emily first. I see you nodding.
Yes. I want to say this quietly because my kids are in the other room. They were whispering outside the door 2 seconds ago. But my daughter is obsessed. She's 4 and she's obsessed with trolls, like the movie Trolls. And we were all trolls for Halloween. It was a thing. And I want to make her little like plushy stuffed trolls, like in this very animated way with felt. So I doodled it the other day. Hopefully. See, this is where I might have to make my daughter an IOU. Hopefully I can get it all done, or she'll just get 2. I'm not sure. But either way, I'm excited about it.
All right, Jen, how about you? Do you have something special planned this year?
Yes, I do. My sister-in-law, gave me the hint that her children need hats this year for Christmas. And I actually have them here. So I've been knitting hats for my nieces and nephews in up in North Dakota. So I have 2 of them done here. I have 2 more to go, but I'm very excited about these. They're so cute, and I can't wait for them to all have their little matching hats.
Great. And I see Mr. Domestic over there eyeing up the shelf. What do you have planned that's getting you really excited here?
So I discovered that velvet yarn stuff. I didn't know about it, and it's amazing. And I'm going to I have one of those machines that are the plastic knitter things, and then I have a smaller one. I'm going to use that to make a cardigan for my daughter. And I think I know how to do it. I'm not using a pattern, and then I think I can crochet like ribbing for this, but it's going to be baller. It's going to be soft, and then I'll make a grown-up version for me later, probably in rainbow.
Those sound very exciting. Before I start to give out some of the information that I'm going to send you all off with to finish today's event, I am going to go right back down the line for anybody that missed it or maybe just needs a quick reminder. I'm going to have you all give us a reminder of what project you're bringing to us next week and just a little tiny detail about it. Think snippet preview. All right, Matthew, let's start with you.
We are going to be making a Quilt-as-You-Go stocking. And as been verified and validated earlier in the show, it is indeed foolproof.
Yes. All right, Jen, how about you? What are you bringing next week?
We'll be making these tiny little mittens that you can turn into an ornament.
Perfect. And Emily, what have we got from you?
This awesome, colorful felt bulb garland that can also be an ornament. That can be a ornament, bulb garland, or bulb ornament. Ornaments and bulbs sounds kind of the same, but it's cute and colorful. It's all that matters.
Cute and colorful. That is the theme for sure. All right, so it is time to say our goodbyes. And I would just like to say thank you on behalf of Mr. Domestic, Jen and Emily. Thank them for joining us today for this little preview and the announcement of our 5 days of merrymaking. And now I have a few details that I'm going to drop for you to send you off. So make sure to join us. We're going to start on Monday, that's December 7th at 2 p.m. Central for the very first live demonstration of this mini series. And you'll want to check back every day for new projects. Don't forget, there's going to be free patterns, there's going to be instructions, and even recipes available for download as well. And you can find the entire mini-series schedule in the video description. So if you miss it as I read it out, don't worry, it's available for you in the video description to come back to. And we hope that you'll be joining us for a very fun week. So that said, here's the rundown. Here's what to expect. You've already done the welcome with us today. And then starting Monday, December 7th, That one's at 2 p.m. Central Time. That's where we'll be doing our mini knitted mittens ornament. Tuesday, December 8th, this is the one that's a little different. It's at 3 p.m. Central Time, a hot cocoa mug decorated cookies project. So that should be fun. And again, that's at 3 p.m. Central Time. Wednesday on the 9th at 2 p.m. Central, we'll be doing the felt Christmas bulb garland. You got a little sneak peek about just a moment ago. Thursday, the 10th, 2 p.m. Central again, quilted joy Chenille pillow. And then finally, we'll be wrapping up that 5 days of merrymaking on Friday, December 11th at 2 Central, Quilt-as-You-Go holiday stockings. So you did get a few sneak peeks from our instructors here today, a few extras coming in for you next week as well. And I'm going to give everybody a quick 3-second goodbye. Emily, say your last final goodbyes for us.
Thank you. Good to be here.
And Jen, farewell.
Bye, everyone. I'll see you on Monday for our mitten.
And a farewell from Mr. Domestic as well.
I'm not going to farewell, but I want everyone. Leah did such a great job. Everyone, she's a boss. She's a boss. Bye.
All right. On behalf of all of our instructors, my name is Leah Zahner, and we hope to see you for some merrymaking next week. Bye.